So, music news. We're going to start things off. Headlines here. We have Tim Lambesis got very high hopes for 2025. Unto Others have finally rescheduled their canceled tour. Well, the tour that they got kicked off of. We'll talk about that. They're now headlining. We have Guns N' Roses have hit a very interesting musical milestone in a fairly unexpected way. And then we've got quite a bit more in music this week. So let's get into it. Welcome, nerds, to this week's edition of the Music News. This is just a section, one section of six, count them, six other sections that we do over on the main channel in a show I like to call Week in Nerddom, where we talk about all of the nerdy things. You can find a link to that show down in the description or at the end of this video. Now let's talk about new music, touring information, and other generally interesting things to do with the music news. You thought I was going to say generally nerdy, didn't you? Follow-ups and corrections this week in the music section. So first up, we're not going to spend any more time on it than this, I think, even after the award has been announced. But the Grammys have just announced all of the nominees for this year's ceremony. We don't really cover the awards shows anymore just because nobody cares. Like, it's just a bunch of elite types. I mean, less so with the movies, or with the music rather, but still pretty much just a bunch of elite types patting each other on the back and saying good job. But it is significant when in the Grammys specifically, when the metal performance, when all of the metal and hard rock stuff actually has artists in the nominees that legitimately deserve to be there, and not just because they have a weird high profile for whatever reason. Like, if anyone else had performed at the Winter Olympics, then or was it the summer? I don't remember. Gojira performed at the Olympics, so now they're nominated for a Grammy. Like, that makes sense. But just a real quick, the artists that are nominated this week for metal performance, we have Metallica, Judas Priest, Gojira, Spirit Box, and Knocked Loose. That's a great list of bands to be nominated for best metal performance. Like, I can see why all of them. I mean, Knocked Loose isn't technically metal, they're kind of hardcore, but most normies don't understand the difference, so sure. But yeah, congratulations to everybody nominated. We might, in passing, reference who wins if I see it and care to write it down. Otherwise, congratulations to everyone nominated. It's really just the fact that the genre is getting mainstream recognition is the point here. So the other actual follow-up that we have this week has to do with, once again, As I Lay Dying, because, yeah, apparently people really want to hear about Tim Lambesis. So let's talk about Tim Lambesis. This one's going to be a lot quicker than the last one because we already know all of the issues. They're all basically laid out on the table in very vague ways, but still we kind of have an idea of what the hell's going on. But now we have Tim Lambesis scheduling festival dates in 2025. The band has taken a spot on the Friday bill for next year's Welcome to Rockville Festival. It's the only one that's booked so far, but they're on the list. So yeah, apparently Tim has pretty high hopes for the release of the new record, and then the fact that he can get a new band behind him in the interim before this show specifically comes around. So that's what we got for follow-ups. Let's move into new music. Fairly short new music section comparatively, but still got a few really cool ones in here. The first one we're going to talk about is another rap song. Dax has released a new song called Soldier. It is featuring Tom MacDonald. If you don't know who Dax is and you listen to rap type things, then you probably should know who Dax is. Dude's incredibly talented and is kind of doing a similar business model as Tom MacDonald. He's self-produced from what I understand, and also doing the independent route. He's not signing record deals or anything. He's putting everything out on his own. Just, again, like Tom MacDonald, the guys have collaborated before, but specifically, let's talk about this song, Soldier, very appropriately released on Veterans Day. I thought it was a little weird that Tom MacDonald's verse kind of veers into trans issues. Like, I understand at this point he's got a shtick that he's kind of got to stick to, but I feel like the topic of veterans and soldiers kind of fits in with his shtick anyway, and he didn't have to veer off into the other thing, but it's still, like, it still works. Like, this is still a really good song. It's just for a second you go, wait a minute, this isn't about trans, this is about soldiers. Why are we going here? So it kind of takes you out of it, kind of brings it down just a little bit, but I still would definitely recommend this if you want to just hear some pretty solid rap. Like this is, again, I don't know if I would really go into the territory of hip hop with Dax, but as far as I differentiate the two, he's a rapper. So there's that. The next track we have on here is another one from All That Remains. We still have no release date for the record because they're doing this weird thing where they have the record done, but they're gonna trickle out. Like, I understand that the business model is changing in the industry, but this, I think, is a little bit of a weird way to do basically the same end result. And I'm going to go off on a little tangent here before we get into the All That Remains stuff. But so generally speaking, the way it was before the rise of digital age, when back in like the 90s and early 2000s and previously even, is you would release one, maybe two singles to build hype for the record. Then you release the record and release another one, maybe two singles before you start the next record cycle. Like that's generally the lifespan of an album for a band, pre-YouTube and pre-digital everything. Now, with streaming and YouTube and just everyone being able to access all of your catalog instantly whenever they want, without having to purchase the album, they just listen to it on a streaming service that they're paying for. That has changed the game a little bit. And so someone, again, I'm gonna reference Tom MacDonald because I feel like he's kind of doing it the best, and a lot of people are doing something similar. I'm not saying they're modeling the way they conduct their business after Tom MacDonald. I just think Tom's tapped into it better than most. And a lot of people are doing very, very similar things. And now that Slipknot is on their own, they're going to start doing something like this as well, from what it sounds like from what I've been hearing behind the scenes. So the new model is you release probably 4 or 5 singles while you're putting the record together. Once you've released your batch of singles over the course of a series of months, then you collect those and put them on an album with a couple of B-sides effectively, and then that is your album. So the release of the album is now after the singles instead of in the middle of the singles. And I really honestly think this is a better business model because you build up hype and you build up hype and you keep your name in the conversation. You stay in front of your audience for as long as possible, and then you release the record for them to digest as a whole once they've gotten all of the singles, and you can perform the new music live, and it makes for the musicking experience a little bit more better. I feel like this is a much more appropriate way to release music, especially considering the age of streaming and such. So back to As I Lay Dying, or I'm sorry, All That Remains. The name of the song is Forever Cold. If you remember the last song we talked about off this record, the one after Divine, I'm totally blanking on the name of the other single, but the last one we talked about wasn't as good. Like, it was still pretty good. It's still All That Remains. It's still modern All That Remains, which I think is much better than their first couple records. Even the Fall of Ideals, I think, was the name of the record. I think that this record is on track to be better than even that, based on Divine and then this song Forever Cold. The other single I still think is not quite as solid, but this is almost as good as Divine. Like, this is definitely a track that is going to be one that I'm going to crank every time I hear it on the radio, and is one that I'm going to put on my MP3 player, so when I'm going to the gym I got something to pump to. Like, this is good quality All That Remains, and I'm super stoked for it. Go check it out. The video is linked down in the description. It's actually a lyric video, so it's not a proper performance video, but still, go check out the song. Link exists in the description. Next, we have a fairly notable track. This is the first new Butcher Babies track since their vocalist Carla Harvey left. So they used to have 2 vocalists, now they have 1. This is the first track with just the solo vocalist, and this honestly feels like instrumentally they're maturing. They're getting a little bit better as far as the instrumentalists go. As far as vocals and lyrics, performance of vocals, like I haven't listened extensively exclusively to the Butcher Babies. So I know that one of the vocalists primarily did singing. One of the vocalists primarily did like the harsh scream vocals. They did cross over, but by and large, again, from my understanding, it was kind of one lane and the other. So it seems like the vocalist that was left is the one who did the singing vocals primarily, and fairly solid as far as the performance goes. Lyrically, still feels fairly adolescent. Still feels, I don't know. Adolescent's kind of the best way to put it. Just not exactly lyrically as competent as they are instrumentally and even vocally. Like, I think her vocals are pretty strong, just not the lyrics. Mild recommend, but still a recommend. I would say this is one to listen to. The name of the song, is Serenity. I didn't say that because we were talking about who the Butcher Babies are, and I got distracted by myself. So, yeah, the name of the song is Sincerity. Go check it out. Again, mild recommend. And then our final track in new music this week comes from a band from the UK called Malevolence. And for all of the music these guys have put out previously, this new track, Trenches, I feel like, from my exposure, because I only know the most recent record, this is coming off of a new record they're working on. This is more in line with the hardcore style that I kind of grew up with. Not quite old school hardcore, but kind of like New York hardcore sound. The late 90s, early 2000s kind of New York hardcore sound, which is, again, right about when I was a teenager. So yeah, just this track bangs. This is a really good song. Go check it out, go listen to it, go pay for it on iTunes, go do all of the things to support these guys, because this is good hardcore. It's borderline metalcore. The last record, again, the one that they were playing a bunch of tracks on, Liquid Metal previously, is very much metalcore. This is kind of dropping the metal a little bit and leaning further into the hardcore side, and yeah, definitely invigorating. Go check out Trenches from Malevolence for sure. That, though, is what we have for new music. Let's talk about tours and festivals. We do have some news in here. First up, Download Festival for 2025 has just released their lineup. The dates I did not write down because I take amazing notes, but we do have a couple of the big names on the bill. The 3 headliners for the 3 dates, you can find a link down in the description. It'll take you to the website. You can get tickets and all that jazz. But the 3 headliners, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm pretty sure. 3 headliners are Green Day, Sleep Token, and Korn. That is who is going to headline. And that's fairly significant in that none of them have previously headlined Download Festival. So that is, yeah, again, significant unto itself. But then a couple of other noteworthy acts. We have this newly reformed Sex Pistols. We have Orbit Culture, Kim Dracula, Filter, Spirit Box. The list, like I said, it's 3 days long, so go check out the website, link in the description. Get your tickets if you're going to be in the UK around about the time that it happens. Again, I don't know because I didn't put it in my notes, but either way, Download Festival is the thing. Next up, we have Machine Head has announced that they are going to be going on tour with In Flames, Lacuna Coil, and Unearth. This is a hell of a bill, man. This is a super solid bill. I'm not as into Lacuna Coil as the other bands, but still pretty damn solid. We have starting in April 5th in Oakland, California, runs through May 10th in Kelowna, I think is how you pronounce that, British Columbia, up in the Canada place. So tickets, I could not find a link for tickets, but I'm sure if you go check out the Machine Head website, link down in the description, they'll have them soon if they're not up already. Next up, we have one that kind of caught me by surprise, and it's Papa Roach and Rise Against. How are these two? Okay. A Rise of the Roach tour is what they're calling it. This one gets support from Underoath, which is another one kind of out of left field for these two bands. Like, I would have never put these 3 bands on a bill together at any point in any of their careers. Like, that just doesn't make much sense to me. Maybe Rise Against with Underoath. That makes a little bit of sense, but the whole Papa Roach thing kind of throws it. Anyway, so this one is March 20th in Houston, Texas is where they kick it off. Runs through October 5th in West Palm Beach, Florida. This one is a super long tour. They're going a lot of places, like a lot of places. So very likely they're going to be near you soon. I did not, once again, find direct link to tickets. So if you go check out Papa Roach or Rise Against website, which I think I'll probably link Rise Against website down low, you can go check that out. And when tickets are available, you can go purchase them. The next one is kind of an anti-tour piece of news, but it's still touring technically, and it has to do with King Diamond. King Diamond is currently on their North American tour. They had to cancel 2 of the Canadian tour dates. The reason given was unforeseen circumstances. No more specificity has been given for that, but the 2 dates that have been canceled are Edmonton, Alberta, and Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, again, both in Canada. The refunds are available if you had tickets for those dates. They will be, they're still on the tour, so they're not canceling the rest of the tour, just those 2 dates. November 20th and 21st are those dates respectively. So again, if you had tickets for those and you're unable to do anything, refunds are available. Next up is the one that I was super excited to see. Unto Others have finally made up the scheduling issue with their last tour so if you remember, they got kicked off the Wasp tour. Like before it started, they were asked to leave because Wasp are crazy. Blackie is just out of his mind. But now they're making up for it. The tour starts November 15th, so starts this week, and it's in Spokane, Washington, runs through December 13th in LA. This is not as extensive a tour as they were going to do. This is not as extensive a tour as they wanted to do. It is a headlining tour for them, but there's not a whole bunch of dates on here. The band has said, though, they will be touring much more in 2025 because they did just drop a new record, right? So this is just a few dates to make up for the fact that they got kicked off the Wasp tour, and then a presumably much bigger tour will be announced for 2025. So super stoked for that. Tickets can be found in the link down below. And then we have Cattle Decapitation has announced a European tour. This one is fairly significant for the support. We have Shadow of Intent, Revocation, and Volvodina, I think maybe is how that's pronounced. I don't know. January 23rd in Nuremberg, Germany, runs through February 23rd in Tilburg, Netherlands. Yeah, this is Europe, so I don't have there. I believe are tickets available through StubHub, linked down in the description. You don't hold me to that because I think there's a possibility that that's just an American website. So go check it out either way. Cattle Decapitation is a pretty intense live show. Like, I was definitely taken by surprise when I saw them. When I went, there was the Black Braid show. It was epic. It was really fun. Go check it out. That is what we have for tours and festivals. So now let's dive into some regular ass news. This week we have 2 fairly big pieces for news. First up is Guns N' Roses have hit a very rare milestone in music. They have the honor of being the 8th band to have an album be in the Billboard Top 200 for 700 weeks in a row. That means this record has been selling significantly for the past 700 weeks. Again, they are the 8th band to do the 8th musical act to do this. Also noteworthy this week for the same reason, Bruno Mars is the next one. He's number 9. So weird, but true. But the really weird thing about this is it's not Appetite for Destruction that has been going for 700 weeks. It's actually the Guns N' Roses greatest hits album. That is what got them the notoriety of being the 8th band in history to be on the Billboard Top 200 for 700 weeks in a row. So yeah, that's pretty intense. But our next piece is a little bit of a downer, kind of, sort of, and it has to do with High Lung. Again, if you don't know who High Lung is, I really suggest it for most people. It's very atmospheric. It's not metal. It is kind of metal adjacent. There's a lot of Tuvian style throat singing that happens for it, but it's very much like European tribal is the best way to put it. They're like the pre-Norse kind of tribe. and it's really, really intense in a lot of really cool ways. But it's, like I said, it's very atmospheric even. Some of the less intense tracks are very just kind of warm and fuzzy and really cool. But not describe, and that's not the point of the piece. The point of the piece is Heilung are taking a hiatus. They are currently on tour. They will remain on tour until approximately August 17th of 2025. The August 17th date, somehow they're selling tickets for, but there has not been a venue announced for it. Like there's no, you don't know where this show is going to happen. This show is going to happen. After that August 17th date, they will be taking a hiatus. It will not be permanent. They are not breaking up. They're not going their separate ways. They're just taking some time. Like I feel like the significance of them announcing the hiatus means it's probably going to be a few years, but also like they're kind of at the peak of their popularity, and they just keep going up. Just more and more people are really getting into them. So I can't foresee it being a super long hiatus, like to the point where I think it might be a little bit weird that they're announcing a hiatus, because they're basically between records. Like you can take a few years between records, and I don't know. It's very interesting, and that's why we're sharing it in the news. But that is what we have this week. Also noteworthy this week, we're not doing suggestions just because there's way too much stuff going on. Suggestions take a lot of my brain energy, and just couldn't put them together this week. So no suggestions. That is what we've got for music this week, nerds. That brings us to the end of the video, nerds. Thank you very much for joining me for the news. Once again, there is a full and probably much more up-to-date and recent episode of the news, the full-length version, if you will, called The Week in Nerddom over on the main channel, linked down in the description, and probably link popping up somewhere around my face right about now. So click on that, go check that out as well, or if you prefer your news in more truncated pieces, then by all means just stick around here and go check out some of the other stuff we offer on this channel. Thank you very much for joining me. We will see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember, nerds, that if it is generally nerdy, it's probably here.